Hi, I'm Nick from NME. I'm here at the Principal Hotel in London talking to Alessia Cara, who flew in a couple of days ago. Well, the first thing I really wanted to ask is, the last time I interviewed you was in Canada at your family home, and it was 2.5 years ago.
Yeah.
I think it was like February 2016.
Yeah, it was, my goodness.
Cheesy question, but how much has life changed for you since then?
It's changed quite a bit. A lot has happened in the last 2 years. I think like my circumstance and the life around me has changed, but I still feel the exact same. It's actually crazy to think that that was 2 years ago, because it feels like yesterday. It sounds cheesy, but yeah.
When we were there, like, you were still like living at your family home, and you had like, seemed like quite a normal life in spite of like going into the city to perform and stuff. Is that still what life's like? Do you still live with your parents, or have you moved out now?
I still live there. I'm not really there often, but that's my home base when I visit home. But yeah, pretty much the same thing. My room is still the same. Everything's like very, very the same. I like to keep things. I don't like change that much, especially when everything like outside of that has changed. I just like to go back to something familiar, so that's why I'm still there.
Do you still have that picture of Amy Winehouse on the wall?
I do. Same place, yes.
Can you go out and about now, like in Toronto, without being kind of asked for selfies and stuff, or is it hard for you to do that?
In my city, like in Brampton, my area, I guess, not so much. I can't really do that anymore because I feel like people not only like knew me before this, but then they put 2 and 2 together. They know I'm from there, so they know it's me. But in the city, it's not that bad, and I think elsewhere, like all over the world, I can usually, knock on wood, like get around, and it's fine. Just like I find this in my area where I'm from, or around where I live, people just know that, I guess through word of mouth, or just know that I'm there, so yeah.
Do you mind posing for selfies, or are there days where you're like, oh, just leave me alone?
Of course, yeah, of course. I'm still very weird with attention. I feel kind of weird that people care so much about pictures with you. Like, that concept just is kind of weird for me, but obviously I do it because they're fans and I get it, you know. It's like my millionth time, but it's their first time. But there are days where I'm just like, just not in the headspace for it, and it sucks, but I still do.
Yeah, so last time we spoke about online criticism, I think you'd done a New Year's Eve TV appearance, and people had moaned online that you hadn't been wearing a dress. It's New Year's Eve, and there's some nonsense about that, basically. Obviously, since then, you've had the Grammys, you won Best New Artist, and it should have been, I guess, like one of the happiest days of your life, but straight away there were negative comments, people saying you shouldn't have won the award. Like, how hard was that to deal with? What should have been a high for you?
It was pretty hard because I felt like it just ruined the innocence and the happiness of that dream of mine. Because when you're a kid and I don't know, you just have those like little innocent dreams and things you want to accomplish, and then when it happens, which you never expect for it to happen, it's finally there, and then you feel like that moment's kind of taken from you. And it just sucked because people turned it into like me against this person, or I took something from someone, and that was just unfortunate, especially because that night a lot of people were complaining about feminism that night, or lack thereof. And I just felt like the same people saying that were the same ones bashing me for winning something I didn't have control over. So I just felt like it was really hypocritical, and it didn't feel very feminist to me to bash a woman for representing women and like just achieving her lifelong dream, you know. So that kind of sucked, and it just was like a wake-up call and a reality check for where the world is at right now, and what the effects of social media are, and how unhealthy it can be sometimes. And so since then, I just really stopped looking at comments, and I took some time away from social media after that, just to get back to like a good mindset, and to remind myself I didn't take something from anybody, and that I deserve to be there the same way everybody else was. And you just move on. You know, it's hard because, like, I wish I could say it didn't bother me, but it does, because it's like something I've always held so highly. So, but whatever.
I guess the only kind of positive from it is that you've learned that to take a step back from social media, which in the long run could be something that really protects you and helps you.
Yeah, because, I mean, when I won, of course, like, I like took it in, but then when I got back home, I wanted to go online to see what my fans were saying, and then also what people thought of the performance. And I didn't even know that the backlash was happening until I was reading this stuff, and it's like, goodness. And then I kept getting into the whole of reading more because I wanted to see why people were so mad. And then the more you read, the more you see, and it's just like, it's not good for you, and like you shouldn't let those things affect something as great as that. And I wish that I hadn't seen any of it, to be honest. Yeah.
What made you want to put out your own statement? At what point do you think, do you know what, I'm going to have to say something about this? I can't just ignore it.
Because, I mean, once it started to get to like the death threats, I'm not into that. Like, I don't see why people have to threaten to kill you for stuff like that. And I think that was like the last straw for me. And I wanted to say something because I realized that I never give myself credit for anything, and I'm always like putting myself down. And I wanted to tell people, like, listen, there's nothing you can say to me that I haven't thought about myself. I think I suck too. You tell me I suck. I've thought that I suck my whole life, but I won a Grammy today because of my hard work and because I've had this ambition for a long time, and I've been working my butt off for the last 3 years, and I wanted to stand up for myself, but also stand up for other young girls who are always told that they don't deserve their accomplishments because someone else did something for them. You just feel like when you're a young woman, no one ever likes to tell you that you've achieved something. No. You know, it's always like, oh, you did it because of this, and I didn't want to do that, and I felt like I'd be doing a disservice to all the young girls out there if I didn't stand up for myself, so I did.
You mentioned obviously 3 years hard work on the first album campaign. How hard is it to regroup and think, oh gosh, like I've got to be creative again, write new songs, do another album? Is it hard to kind of go from touring and promoting mindset to creative songwriting mindset?
Not really, because I had so much that I wanted to say, because I hadn't really written for 3 years, and so there's obviously a lot that happens in someone's life in 3 years. So I had all these things built up that I wanted to talk about, and I was just honestly excited to start writing again because, I mean, the album was new to a lot of people, but even when it first came out, I had it for like 2-3 years prior. So I just wanted to sing about new things, and I was just ready to start fresh again.
What made you call it The Pains of Growing? What was the thinking behind the title?
It's kind of like, there are many facets to it, or different sides. I think the pains of growing in a more general sense, in terms of just being a human being and the human experience of transition and sometimes confusion and just like all the different kinds of pain that come with growing as a person, whether that's with relationships with people, within yourself, circumstantial things, but then also just kind of the pains of growing as an artist and being in the public eye. That's a more personal standpoint on it. Just like the Grammy thing, that was like some things that you got to deal with when you're kind of growing in the public eye too. So it's like two ends, but I want more people to focus on the other end of it, which is the human experience, because obviously not everybody can relate to that other side.
Did you feel more pressure this time around because the first album did do so well?
A little bit. I think the pressure lied like within me writing everything by myself this time, because usually, you know, the second album has this stigma around it of like, oh, it's like make or break, you know? And me choosing to strip everything back and write it on my own was kind of scary, because I had never written a full project totally by myself. And I thought for a while, like, am I gonna be able to do this, or is it gonna fail? And then am I just gonna, you know, am I just gonna give up if it fails? Like, you know, you never know. But I wasn't so focused on like, is it gonna do as well as the last album, because I just had so much I wanted to say, and I really wanted to just make an album by myself, and I wanted to tell my story 100% like through me. And so I just tried not to think of it as pressure, but just tried to rather just like express myself. I know that sounds like dumb, but just get everything out, and I don't know, just keep doing the same things that I did the last time, because it's not like on the first album I tried to make a successful album. I didn't even know I was making one. I just was making songs that happened to connect with people, and I'm aware of what my fans expect from me and why they're my fans, and they're my fans because they connect to me. So I just thought I would do the same thing and not worry about second album or, you know, how it will do. I just want the people who like my music to like this one as well, and that's all that really matters. But obviously it's a scary thing, going into a new project by yourself and being like, but it was easier than I thought, or not easier, but more natural than I thought.
Do you think it helped, but do you think writing it alone helped you to kind of keep focused on what you wanted to say? Because sometimes you hear when an artist has had like, you know, a few radio hits like you've had, you hear they team up with different songwriters and producers who are kind of trying to recreate those sounds a little bit. They think, oh, that's what that person does, I'll try and create something for them.
Yeah.
I guess if you're doing it all yourself, you can just write about what you want to write about. You're not kind of trying to slot into what other people think of you.
Exactly. And also, you know, when you're writing with someone else, in order to get a good song, you have to really open up to them. And I think when I'm writing on my own, I'm just free to write however I want to write and interpret things the way I want to interpret them and write things as generally or specifically as I want to, which is really nice to have that freedom of opening up and not feeling afraid to have to tell someone like the depths of your heart and mind in order to get a good song. You know, it's like I feel it and it's directly from me, and it was just easier and less scary to have it come from me, you know.
Do you get a lot of messages from fans saying what particular songs have meant to them?
I do, yeah, which is really amazing for them to connect in those ways. It's a strange thing, especially with these last two songs that I put out recently. Like, those are so specific to my life that it's scary to lay out all of the things that trouble you in that way, but it's also really like strange in a good way that people can find comfort in your pain and in like your insecurities. So it's been really nice to see that like people genuinely care and are listening and want to hear that stuff. And like I said, I know why my fans are there, and the group of people that are my fans are there because they look for shoulders to lean on, because they need it, and I lean on them, they lean on me, and that's just the relationship that we have, which is really cool. So yeah, it's great.
Slightly cheesy question, but when people hear the name Alessia Cara, what do you want to kind of pop into their head?
I don't know. I want them to feel like I make music for them. You know, I don't want them to ever hear an album of mine and think like, oh, this is an album about her. You know, I want them to be like, this is me. This is like exactly what I'm going through. And it doesn't have to be exactly, but you know, I want them to hear specific songs or an album and find comfort in that genuinely, because that's when I think, you know, a songwriter really does their job, is when they're able to leave so much room for interpretation and connectivity that it's not just an album about them. You know, if people were coming up to me being like, so who's that song about? Or like, oh yeah, like this album's like about you. I don't want that. I want them to not even think of me when, you know, they're listening. So I hope that when my name comes up in the future that people just say, I love her stuff, or it's helped me through stuff.
Awesome. Well, yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.